So I am Amy Siegel, and I'm the Vice President here at ASA, and we're going to be talking about root causes update, and I'm joined by
Wiseman, Girl Friday, on a Friday. School, I'm still the school support specialist in my head, even though now I'm a strategic planning specialist. So one of those titles, I just help. So that's good.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and turn off our cameras and jump right in. Okay, so just a little review of what we've done so far this year. You started off the year actually implementing your school improvement plan. So that was the action. Then you've updated your organizational structure. Schools in Update 3 also updated their vision and vision data. They also did their root cause self-study, and then everybody did current achievement data. Last month we worked on goals, and this month it's February, we're working on root causes. And just a reminder that every step, especially from here on out, every step builds on the one before it. And you'll notice in your online vision to action system that we put some roadblocks. If you don't have previous work done, you're not going to be able to advance. So it's really important to keep current on everything and keep that process going.
And of course, if you're unable to keep that process going, or you don't, I guess that's my additional title is loving nag. So I'll be sure and let you know about those things too. But everybody's doing a great job this year. I appreciate that. I know you're busy and the weather's crazy and all kinds of good stuff. So this is, to me, one of the best parts of the whole process and it's the part that tends to get overlooked a lot. So we're going to spend time on that today. So we're going to look at the root causes updates. This is our VTA section 7 for February. And within that, we're going to look at the pre-discussion tasks. We're going to look at the student body discussion, the council discussion, the post-discussion tasks, and then add a little mystery and intrigue to it, the reminder. Okay, on our pre-discussion task, you see there, first of all, don't start discussions until the achievement goals have met criteria. If you don't have those in yet, please get those in as soon as you can. Please don't get aggravated with me if I nitpick on those, because there's no need for you to waste your time on something that's not going to give you the information that you really, really want. And so, but if you can get those in as soon as possible, I'll get those checked. We'll get you moving on with the process. And so have your January submissions there again, including your achievement goals report. Have they met criteria? If they have, that's great. And then double check on the achievement goals report. Are your focus areas entered accurately, and has each SMART goal been entered accurately? And of course, you know that process. And so once those SMART goals look really good and really smart, then we move on.
And the first thing we move on to is the student body discussion. This is going to be an open-ended discussion question. We're going to ask students, what is getting in the way of learning at our school? And this is one of the really important discussions to make sure you are including all students. This is the one where the kids that you most need to reach have a way of popping up and telling you things you really need to know. So find a way. I know a lot of you have been using Google Documents, whole school meetings. We've seen lots and lots of ways to do this. If you're struggling to find a way to include all students, get in touch with Tina. I like to call it cross-pollination. She's really good at taking some ideas from what other schools have done and bringing those to your school.
Okay, this month on your council discussion, and this is the council discussion point person, it's your time to shine. You're going to be deciding with input from the steering team, are you going to have an in-person meeting or only online discussion? And remember, you can have both. One of the things here again that I just want to remind everybody is there's one of the questions on the rubric that asks if you've had everybody to the table as far as representative groups. And a lot of times there's not attendance taken at online meetings. And so I can never see that. I can only see who attended on the online discussion, but not the in-person. And so if you could take attendance at the in-person meeting, there's a place where that will do a breakdown as well. And so a lot of times you don't get a check on that rubric item because I just can't tell unless it's brought up in the meeting minutes or something like that. So be as accurate as you can with checking that attendance. I know that's a formality, but it shows that everybody's at the table. You will set your discussion window and the in-person meeting date if applicable. And then you're going to open council discussion 4. Probably some of you can do this in your sleep now. Then you're going to monitor that discussion and then prompt anyone who hasn't participated to join in. And it is February. And it is kind of in the lull of the year as far as it's cold and it's, well, this year it's everything. But it's easy for people to kind of get in a lull this time of the process. And so especially people who aren't involved in it on a daily basis, as you in the building are. So be sure and keep those people on task and be sure and help them remember that this is a year-long process. You want to keep them with every step of the process. So be sure and prompt anybody who hasn't participated to join in.
I'll also mention with root cause data, there's quite a bit of studying to do. And so this is also can be a barrier. Folks, it takes some time. If you're doing an online discussion, it's really good to encourage everybody to print the materials out and to pour over those before they start entering things online. But that takes time. And if people don't have some reminders, don't have a little bit of, let's say it, nagging, that can become one of those tasks that just gets shoved to the side. But this is really important work, identifying good root causes. So be sure to either get people to that meeting and let them know, how valued they are in helping you go through that data and find those root causes. And if you're doing it online, just make sure that you're staying in touch with people. And we'll go over the tools for that. But this one probably takes a little more prompting than other meetings. Okay, without further ado, we're going to switch over and do the council discussion presentation. So you all know what that looks like, and also it's recorded for the online discussion. Tina, I think we have a note to turn on cameras, but we'll just go voice for that. Sure. Okay. So welcome, councils. My name is Amy Siegel, and I'm the Vice President here at ASA, and I am joined by
Tina Wiseman, and I'm the Strategic Planning Specialist that works with each of the schools.
And today we're going to be talking about updating your root causes. So just a little review of the work you've done so far this year. Your school has been working to implement their school improvement plan for the current year. And then in second semester, we've started working on writing the plan for next year. So that action was actually started last fall. And then your steering team did an organizational structure update. Some schools, this is the year that they update their vision and their vision data. Your school has been collecting current data. And last month, we worked on getting the achievement goals in place. This month, in February, we're working on root causes. And then in March, we'll move over to interventions. Those are the things that'll help us address our root causes. And then preparations, that's all the prep work so that we're ready in the fall to kick off those new interventions. Today's big question is, given who we are now and our updated goals, what adjustments do we need to make to our root causes?
And at this point in time, you're probably wondering what in the heck is a root cause? And our definition of that term is root causes are the things that get in the way of achievement. So it's just what is holding achievement back. So we're going to get into that kind of discussion. The root causes answer the question, Why aren't more students reaching the benchmarks in our goals?
Root causes can be general. General root causes impact all subjects, all courses, all standards. And some examples of those are poor attendance. If we know if students aren't coming to school, they have a harder time learning. Lack of student discipline. If there's chaos in the classroom, it's hard for kids to learn. Teachers lack engaging instructional practices. Academic help not available outside of school hours. Those are all very general, and addressing any of those would probably help all of your achievement data.
The root causes may also be specific. And some of you who aren't involved directly with the school, you may feel like after looking at these examples that it doesn't really apply to anything that you could contribute. But put this same specific frame of mind into your representation on the council, and then get into the more specific, what I always call more of the laser effect things. So for example, in school with the teachers, it might be a lesson on ratios that's absent from a 7th grade curriculum. And the teachers would know there's a scope and sequence to everything. And if that's missing, and yet the students are tested on that, on any kind of high stakes testing, the kids are already set up to fail because it's just not there. And so a lot of times it can be something as far as an oversight. And so just going back and gleaning through that information, making sure that scope and sequence is there, just those little tiny details can help a lot. Another example is the 7th grade math instructional practices don't engage all students. We all know that there are some kids that are engaged the minute you walk in the room. There are some that warm up to it, and then there are some that just don't engage. And those of you in the community, this may be something you've heard, because sometimes kids won't say anything in the classroom, but then wherever you might be around those students at some time during the evening activities or anything that's going on where you're engaged with these kids, they may bring up something. And so that's something that is good information to help and to share with the council. Maybe there's not extra help that exists for 7th grade math, and it's desperately needed. And we all know everybody has so many hours in the day. So this is where we can kind of have that all hands on deck thing. And, we're saying, I don't think there's any extra help here. And so we know that may help move the data then. And then it could be that students don't choose to ask questions in math class. And that may be something that the teachers notice. And so, or the student body breakout, when you do that and you get the minutes from that, it may show in that the kids are saying, I just don't feel comfortable asking questions. It's going too fast, it's going too slow, whatever. And so all of that information is very specific, but very, very important.
And you notice there's like a theme with this, that we're looking at a specific subject and a specific grade level, and even with the ratios, that's getting to a specific standard. So that's something to note. And when we're talking about specific root causes, you're looking at subjects, courses, standards, grade levels, or even student groups. So we're kind of honing in from that really broad to very specific.
The root causes, always remember, are supported by data. And that's why it was so important to gather all that data through your root cause self-studies, and as well as any of the data that you've done up to this time. And so, for example, you don't want to just guess at what's going on. I think it's because the kids, this isn't happening or that isn't happening. Have the data to back you up, and then otherwise, it's just kind of a shot in the dark, and you don't want that. So it's really look at your data. So, for example, with poor attendance, it might be that 7% of all students are absent more than 10 times during the year, according to school records. With student engagement, 67% of the kids report that instructional practices are not engaging, and that maybe come from a survey. 67 is a lot. And so, and here again, 37 say, nah, I don't really complete my homework every day. So, look at that data, because it's going to tell you an incredible amount of, it's going to give you a lot of information that otherwise you might just be sitting there just kind of spinning your wheels. So always look to the data.
One of the things that we've learned over the years working with schools is that the schools that improve tend to carefully identify both general and specific root causes for each SMART goal. And then they implement interventions that address the root causes. Our experience has been, and the reason that we do the process the way we do it, is that if we just go from goals straight to interventions, then we're kind of guessing at what's going on. So that's where, finding those general and specific root causes, that helps us know exactly what we need to do so we're not wasting our time. So where do you find root causes? And if you've been with us for a while and doing this process, you'll probably remember we provide these root cause reports, and they cover 7 areas: assessment, curriculum, environment, expectations, extra time and help, guidance, and instruction. These all come from ASA's Elements of High Achieving Schools. These are the areas that we've identified that, schools that are addressing these areas, they tend to do better than schools that aren't. And yeah, so these are critical to the student success in your school.
Okay, so when you're looking for clues in those root cause data reports, your question is always, why aren't our students achieving at a higher level? And so you're going to have these different sources that we talked about earlier. Always look to the data. So you're going to have survey questions answered by the students, by the teachers, by parents, and community. And we're nagging you to get as many community response as you can, or as much as you can, and as many parents to respond as you can, and everybody for that matter. The more the better as far as the data goes. If you didn't survey this year, that's fine, because your data is not old. I mean, if it's only a year or 2 old, you're still okay with that. And so you want to be sure and look at that. You also have the self-study questions that are answered by the steering team. And sometimes I think that's kind of an overlooked gold mine. When I look through those, I always look for some kind of a leak to see if there's something that's not been, that, maybe the answer is, just no. And then from that, which it looks like, if I look at my notes, well, I'm going to get into that just a minute, so I'm going to keep moving with the other. With the root cause report, this is a sample survey data. And so you'll remember that the statement is put to each group. I expect myself to continue my education after high school. And then it's broken down into the 4 different groups. So you can look at that, and there again, it's amazing when you see the difference. And this is not an odd or a unique answer where the students say 88%. Why, absolutely. The parents, well, 100%. That's the way it goes. And then you get to the teachers, and it's like a reality check. And it's, it's kind of that, it's not a negativity thing. It's a reality. I don't think that 48% of these kids are truly ready to continue that. That's a conversation when you have that. And so when you have 38% of the teachers saying, I just flat out disagree that they're going to, expect to continue. They might expect it, but it's, is it going to happen? We don't know. And maybe it's even that the kids are saying that they don't expect to when they're talking to the teachers, but with the parents, everybody's on board. So it's such a difference in the responses, and that definitely is cause for a good discussion. Now, moving on to that sample self-study data. This is the one I was talking about, where you're going to have questions, and each year you're going to see a data year. So it will say use data from either this year or the year previous. And so always you want to pay attention to that when you're filling out that information. But what you really need to be looking for is not where you've hit it at 100%. I mean, this is great. You see that first one? What percentage of your ninth graders enrolled in core 40 curriculum at the beginning of the freshman year? 100. Great. That's good. But look for the things that may trip you up. And so one of the main ones that I always notice is that, especially and particularly with Title I schools, there's a question on there about parent involvement. And more often than not, the answer is no. Are we happy with our parent involvement? And so that's something that counts. That really needs to matter. So as you go through and look at these, yes, you have to answer these to meet certain requirements for PL 221, rules and regs, all those different types of things. But it's also, you're telling your story. So don't ever overlook these self-study data reports.
To give you an idea of when you're going through these reports, what it is you're looking to do, we're going to provide you with your goals, and those are split into these focus areas, which are really broad. And in this example, excuse me, the focus area is to increase the percent who pass 10th grade I-STEP math. And so then the school has come down, or last month you all looked at data and looked for SMART goals. And so in this one, we're breaking down into a smaller goal. We're going to increase the percent who master linear equations on the 10th grade I-STEP math, and that will help us improve that focus area. So as you're going through and looking at data, if this was your goal, here are some possible root causes. Linear equations are not reinforced over time in math instruction. Extra help does not exist outside of the classroom for math. And 40% of students report that classroom discipline is making learning difficult. So those are things that might be gleaned through discussion with our math department, and other is observation. And the data for extra help does not exist outside the classroom. It either does or it doesn't. So we're at a 0 here. And then 40% of students reporting on the survey. So that's our goal, is to get to those possible root causes specifically for each of those SMART goals.
Your council discussion outline then is, it's about time. So it's there, like Amy said, this was a big one. And so, it's time consuming, it's thought-provoking, and it's not something that everybody can just go through and say that's nice, because this is the heart of the matter. And so, and you don't want everybody to get overwhelmed and say, well, if we just zero in on something, then we're going to have all these other problems blow up. You're not on fire. I mean, you're okay. It's just that we want you to get even more okay with this. And so you may have to, if you have anybody kind of, at this point in time, a little bit nervous about that, we're just getting better. We're not trying to put a fire out. We're just getting better. And so make sure that you locate and preferably print out those tools you need. I don't know about you, but I am a printer and a scribbler. So it helps me a lot to just have that and not try to just digest that much information. Always review those SMART goals, because that will keep things in alignment. And then that way you're not straying off with a root cause that really has nothing to do with the SMART goal. The SMART goal is the focus. Use that root causes help sheet. Study that root cause data, and then answer those discussion questions. Review last year's root causes, suggest new root causes, and then of course always you can have additional thoughts.
So that's our outline, and now we're going to break it down and talk about each of those things so that you're ready for your discussion. Our first note is about time. This discussion does take a lot of time and energy, and it may be best to think about it in two parts, in preparation time and discussion time. In the preparation time, that would include printing the reports you need, studying those reports and making notes about possible root causes. That's usually done individually in that preparation time. The discussion time is the time to come back to the group and either online or in person, whichever your school is doing, then that's where you're sharing your findings and responding to each other. And yeah, that's a good root cause I hadn't thought of. Or, well, I see this a little differently. Here's what I found in the data. So have that discussion, but really you can't get into that discussion until you've done the preparation work. So if you're doing your discussion online, if your school is, we highly, highly recommend that you keep that discussion link that was emailed to you until this is all over, so that you can get what you need from the as far as the reports, and then you can return after you've had a chance to review the data and participate in that discussion. So to find those reports, as we were saying, you're going to locate and print the tools you need, and these are mostly the reports. You'll notice at the top of the discussion page, and you might be watching this video on the discussion page, at the top on the right-hand side, there's a column that says instructions, and all of the reports that you need are in this instructions area. If you don't have access to a printer, contact your discussion point person for help. And you can see, I'm pointing right now, for our school, I am the discussion point person. So it has my name, my phone number, and my email address. So if you need help with your discussion, find that person for your school and see if they can help you get the materials printed out. If you're meeting in person, your steering team has probably provided you these reports already. So that's where they are. And the first one you're going to print out is the SMART Goals report.
I'm sorry, I had my mic off, Amy.
Oh, that's okay. So you want to talk about SMART Goals?
Sorry about that. I'll jump in. Focus areas, that's always the FA. And so it's a focus area. That's a very broad goal, and it's supposed to be broad on purpose. And so that's something that's going to be impacted by the SMART goals. And so then, as you recall, then the SMART goals are listed under each focus area, and they're much more specific. So remember that you're looking for root causes that will improve the SMART goals. So the focus are just there. They've done their job. So now you're looking at SMART goals.
The next tool we have for you is the root causes help sheet. I love this because this is the kind of thing that helps me stay organized when I'm doing this sort of research. So you'll notice that down the left, we've listed all the SMART goals. Across the top, you can write in possible root causes that you found in the root cause reports. And then it's possible, especially if you're looking at some general root causes, that those things could impact more than one SMART goal. So if we're looking at attendance, we might check every one of those SMART goals underneath that attendance root cause. And then at the bottom, and this is a really important area so that nobody has to go back and look later. So you've got your possible root cause at the top, you've checked off the SMART goals that could impact, and then you want to put in the evidence. So whatever it was in that report or in other data that you found, you put in the evidence down there so that everybody knows why this is really a root cause. It could be, you know, that if our attendance rate is actually very, very good, that yeah, we could try to reach, you know, those last few kids who aren't coming to school as much as we want them to, but it might not be our priority because the evidence shows that it wouldn't impact a lot of kids. So it's really important to put that in there, and so we give you a place to do that.
So you get everything put together, and then you're going to study those root cause reports. So as you can see on the left side, it gives you very detailed breakdown of those 7 areas. And the root cause survey and self-studies are completed every 3 years. So you can find the date of the last self-study, which this one shows that it's in 1819. And then it's broken down into each of those areas. So it's every self-study question and every survey question that deals with expectations. If that's what you want to look at, then that's what you click on. And then it breaks all this out, parses it out, and puts it in the right little column. And so each of those packages have very specific things to those areas of success. And so it's optional, but it's important that if your SMART goals have specific student groups, study the root cause drill down reports to find the possible root causes for those specific student groups. And the reason that it is important is because there again, the more specific your root causes are, the more focused your interventions will be. So you're just not throwing a bucket of water on it. You're almost using the eyedropper to get right down to the heart of the matter. And as a result, you're not ignoring everybody else, but you're probably finally going to get to where you can help with it's like a perpetual issue that's going on, and it constantly gets overlooked. So now you're going in for that laser strike. And then the self-studies can also help you identify root causes. And like I said, don't just look at those as hoops to jump through, because it's telling your story in what's going on in your building. And a lot of times there can be some good information that comes out of that I think more often than not gets overlooked.
Okay, so now that we'll say that you've done that first part, that preparation, and when you're ready to start answering discussion questions, if you're doing that online, I just want to go through and make sure that you're aware there are 3 parts to this. In part 1, you're reviewing and revising the current root causes. So we're going to list each of the current root causes. Those are in the plan that your school has been implementing this year. And we'll decide, we'll ask you, do you want to continue this root cause for next year or omit the root cause for next year? And then it could be that we just need to tweak it. So we give you a comment box there. So if it just needs continue it, but make some changes. So that's part 1. And if your school has a lot of root causes, there could be quite a few listed there. So just make sure that you're going through each of those. And then the next part, in part 2, we're going to be asking if there are any new root causes we need to add. So if we've changed our goals, it could be that we've omitted a bunch of root causes. So now it's time to add. What are the things that are that we need to work on for this set of goals? So and we'll give you some guidance there about how to format it. And you can say, like, one situation that's interfering with our ability to reach this or to reach a specific SMART goal is, and then you give your data or give your root cause and the data that goes with it. And then in the last section, we're just asking you for additional thoughts. If there's anything else that you think needs to be discussed about root causes, this would be the place to do it. Or if you have questions that you'd like to pose to the whole council, and hopefully folks will read those and respond. So during this discussion, try to come back and look to see if there are things being discussed. If you're not doing that in an in-person meeting, or if you are having an in-person meeting and not everybody was able to attend, take a look at the online discussion so you can see what folks are saying.
Then after the discussion, the steering team will consider all the council input. They'll consider all the student body input, and then they'll consider the state and federal requirements. From there, they'll update the root causes, and then they'll send the new root causes to the council members and ask for consensus.
If you have questions, please contact your school's council discussion point person. And as I mentioned, you should be able to find that. If you're watching this video online, that should be listed right above the video. So we want to thank you all for participating in your School Improvement Council. We know that this takes some time and energy on your part, and everybody's busy these days. We really do appreciate the work that you put into helping your school improve.
This is a tough one, so we can't thank you enough for sticking with it, and good luck.
Okay, so back to our steering team presentation. That was the council discussion, and either you'll do that online and you watch that video, or you'll be doing that presentation with your group. So I just want to review the online discussion tools that we give you in the system. I know a lot of you could probably do this presentation by now, but just in case we're dealing with anybody who's new to the steering team, we like to go over those. And sometimes we find that our people who've been with us for a while have forgotten about some of our tools, so it's a good reminder. So we do give you the videos to watch. We're down in section 7. This is an update 3 school. The section numbers might be a little different for you if you're in a different update tab. The first thing we're going to do is enter the student body discussion summary. It's a good idea to have that first because you might want to share some of those student responses with your council. So that's the same as always. We're just putting in the discussion summary. It's helpful if you let Tina know how you held your discussion and the percentage of students who were involved in that. And then in step 5, we're going to open the council discussion. And again, we're deciding, are we having an in-person discussion or not? I'm going to say our council decided not to do an in-person meeting because February has really weird weather and we don't want to have to reschedule anything in person, so we'll just do online. If you're doing an in-person discussion, remember that the online discussion is still going to be up, and that is so that anybody who couldn't attend the in-person meeting, they still get to have a voice by going to the online discussion. And we're going to close our input. We're going to give them every minute that we possibly can. So we're going to close that on the 27th and write our summary on the 28th. And then I click and send the invitation. So here I see my list of the people who received that invitation. If I need to come back, let's say that Misty Busick gives me a call and says I can't find my link, I can always click that button, the email button again, and it'll resend that to her. So going back to the process page, and to our root causes, so we've opened our discussion, and now we can monitor the discussion, and we try to give you a couple tools to do that. I'm going to look at the report first. This lets us know who on our council has participated. So our school doesn't have a full council because this is a fake school, but let's say that we looked and our teachers, that only 2 out of 30 had participated. Well, we definitely need to get our teachers on this because they're really key. The same thing if we have parents, none of our parents have been participating, or service clubs, or we want folks with all those perspectives. So what we can do is send an email to members who have not yet participated, and that'll get us an email list. We just go through, and so that tells us the addresses, that email addresses, and then we can copy and paste those into an email, just reminding everybody that they received their link and that we really need them to participate in the discussion. That is the report. We also have in step 6 tools for you to monitor. So we'll say that whoever I am, if I'm Betsy Green, I can click on monitor. We just want to make this quick and easy for the steering team members to get in here. I go to continue, and now I'm in the discussion and I can participate in the discussion, but I can also just read and make sure that we aren't seeing things like our math achievement is low because all of our math teachers are stupid. That's not really a helpful comment. It's not supported by data. It's not, there are a lot of things. So I have tools. I don't have any comments in here to show you those tools, but I have tools where I can delete a comment that's just really inappropriate and not helpful to the discussion. And I recommend that if you have to do that, then you're also going back and emailing the person who made that comment and letting them know, hey, we had to delete your comment, and one of the reasons why it's just not supported by data, but also it could read as hostile, and we don't think that that's what you meant to do, but we don't want the discussion to be stymied or go off track because of that. So use your polite words and let folks know what they need to know about that. But that's where it's important that all the steering team members are participating, because you all play important roles at your schools too, but also that you're monitoring and just kind of guiding that conversation if it needs to be guided. So those are the monitor tools. We'll go back to the process page. And then we're going to enter the discussion summary just like always. Because we're only having the online discussion, we don't have a count to put in, but if you're having that in-person discussion, make sure that you have taken roll and that you're putting in the breakdown of groups of who attended, so that we know that that all of your groups are being represented in your discussion. So we give you boxes because we have you go through, because of the format of this discussion, we list each of your root causes from your 2018-19 plan, and you can put in your continue or omit, and then any summary of revisions. If there weren't any suggested revisions, you just leave that blank. And then in part 2, there would be the new root causes. You're just adding a summary of that discussion, and then a summary of any additional thoughts. And when that's finished, you'll submit that to Tina. You can then go in and update your root causes. And so if we have, obviously on this one, we have a bunch of SMART goals that have not been addressed by any root causes, so obviously we need to do some editing. If there were root causes from the 2018-19 plan that you need to omit, you just can hit your delete button. To add a root cause, at the top we have add a root cause. Click on that and you get a form, and we're saying, I don't know why it's doing that. So new root cause, evidence, who said on the survey, and does this root cause affect some more than others? This is asking you really, is this a general root cause or a specific root cause? And we'll say that this is a specific root cause. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry about that. That's actually, I skipped ahead. So if this does affect some students more than others, we're going to ask you for that student group. So if you noticed in your drill down reports that this affects females more than males, or lunch program students more than non-lunch program, or we noticed it in a specific grade level, then you can put that in. If it's general and it seems to be something global in our school, we'll say no. And then this is where we're asking, is it a general root cause, or is it something that affects a specific SMART goal? So the first checkbox is that this is general, and if I have this checked, then I can't check anything else. If I don't have it checked, then I can say, this is going to impact these two more than the others, or just one of these more than the others. And then a save.
Amy, can I jump in on that just a second?
Yes, ma'am.
A content thing on that. That's a tough decision to make sometimes, where it's asking if it affects all those SMART goals. And at first glance, it may be, and you think, oh yeah, it absolutely does. But if you end up with your report and you're looking at it, and every one of your root causes affects all your SMART goals, you're kind of back to square one. And so be really careful with using that. It's fine if you do need to use it, but if you can delve down into that and come up with a specific SMART goal that root cause is affecting, or a couple of those SMART goals, you'll be better off in the long run, because otherwise you've just kind of thrown a blanket over everything. And so it's good to have that, because like she said, if it's attendance, then it's going to affect everybody. But it might not always be everybody that's affected by attendance. So you really have to look to your school, and there again, look to the data, because if you're throwing the blanket on it, you're not going to get where you need to be as quickly as you want to, and then you'll get some frustration in there. So just kind of a heads up on that one.
I'm going to add to that. What Tina's saying is absolutely the case, that if all of your root causes are up here in general, up here under general, then your plan is going to be wishy-washy, and you're not going to move your data as quickly as you could otherwise. So, and it could be, sometimes your council doesn't, they address very general things. It could be up to the steering team to kind of delve into some of these and come and maybe go and talk to your teachers, go and, have some hard conversations and, find out why our students aren't mastering the nonfiction standard on I-STEP in grade 6. We might need to go have a hard talk with those grade 6 teachers and ask them, what do you see going on? What, is it something, are textbooks not covering this well enough? Is it something that we need training on? And teachers might say, we've never been trained to do this. Or, so then you have your root cause. The teachers don't have training in this. So, again, like exactly as Tina was saying, it's important to do the check and make sure that you've got some specific root causes that you can address for each of your SMART goals. I'm so glad you brought that up, Tina. Thank you. So I think we're good on how those get edited. And we'll go back to the process page. All right, but you're going to see in step 9, until your student body discussion summary and your council discussion summary meet criteria, you cannot submit your root causes for review. And so you've got to have those summaries in, and that's because you really have to have that input before you can move forward with these root causes. This is where you start building buy-in. So having really with the achievement goals, you start building buy-in, but this is a really critical area. You need to have your students and your council thinking about what's getting in the way of those goals, so that they can help you address that. So we put this little stop sign here that you've got to have those conversations before you can submit your root causes. This is everybody's plan, not just the steering team's plan. So, and you'll notice when you start getting into your future work that you're not going to be able to work on your interventions until your root causes meet criteria. So we're kind of forcing you to work in order, but there's really good reason for it. We wouldn't do that to you without good reason. Do we have any questions about the online system? I don't see any hands or questions asked, so we'll go ahead back to the presentation. Oops, sorry about that. There we go.
Okay, before you update your root causes, and this is going to be a part of your discussion, remember that you have to have the input from the student body and have that meeting criteria. Have your input from the council in the minutes, have that meet criteria. Make sure that you've done those drill down reports. So do any of the suggested root causes impact some student groups more than others? And how does the root cause impact student groups identified in the SMART goals? Connect those dots like you've never connected dots before. If they're not absolutely matching up, you're not going to get what you want. So don't try to make something fit. If it doesn't fit, then reconsider it and make sure that you're where you want to be. And then with the self-studies, do any of the questions identify a root cause in your school that needs to be addressed in your SIP? So, there again, those self-studies are not just to get them over with. They do have good information. And then based on all of this, what are the root causes to address in the coming year? What really matters? What is going to move that data better than anything else you can think of? Okay, then also, is this mine, Amy?
I think so. I can do it if you'd like me to.
No, it's fine. I have this pile of papers here. This has been a long one. With the post-discussion tasks, okay, your root cause data point person is going to update the root cause online. Your consensus point person is going to send the updated root causes to the council. Remember, you always send it back, and then you seek consensus, and you ask if they can support the root causes, and if not, what would it take for them to do so? And then both are going to work together, going to consult the steering team if any changes are needed for consensus. And then you're going to update root causes if needed and submit for review. And here again, I know I sound like Nancy Nitpicker here, but if you have a root cause that's not working, don't keep it, because it's, don't rubber stamp anything anytime, because it's going to waste your time and it's going to keep you frustrated. So always check and make sure, and it may just need a little bit of tweaking in the wording to get it where you want it, but make those adjustments if you need to do it.
This is where I was supposed to talk about editing your root causes. We've already had that, gone through that. So if you have any trouble editing root causes, just let us know and we'll walk you through that.
Okay, and then on our timeline, February, you're going to update root causes. So that's this month. Then in March, you're going to update those interventions. And then in April, update the preparations that are going to be needed in order to get those interventions going. And at this point in time, and I know I've talked with different ones of you, I know testing season has arrived. So hang tough. We'll support you all that we can, but try to get these things done as soon as you can before you just get bombarded with everything else, because this is the heart of the matter. You want to get these things going for next year. So it's really important to have that adequate time to give all your stakeholders a voice. It's that time to write that real well-considered and strong SIP, and it definitely is a time to finish before the end of the year rush. We know, we've been there. We have felt that urgency of everything coming crashing down at once. Call me if you just even need to vent, because I know it gets so frustrating at that time of year, and it just goes on and on and on. So we're with you. We'll help you in any way that we can. I'll get those things turned around to you as quickly as humanly possible. I'll get emails answered as soon as possible. We'll keep it going on our end, but we just need you to use your whole team. It's not an army of one, but everybody, all hands on deck, and just keep the process moving at this point in time.
So do we have any questions? If you want to raise a hand or send us a question. I think most of us, I don't see any questions or so we'll just say this.
Do get in touch if you need me. You're probably about to the 5-second rule. And so if you want to leave me a phone message, that's fine. Remember, my hours are 8 to 2 Eastern time. I know sometimes that's frustrating because you haven't looked at the clock yet and it's already 2:15 Eastern time or 2:30. Always email me, because if I have my phone with me, or if I have, whatever I have with me, I can check email, and I do that quite often. So if there's something I can answer, I'll answer it through email, where I might not be right by my phone where I even know that you've called. So just always do that, and that way I can keep in touch with you and keep this rolling as soon as possible.
So that is our presentation for today. I know this is a big one, but it is really, it's probably the heart of your plan. So in the midst of all the craziness that is February, please, dig in and find those really important root causes so that you know next month what you need to address with your interventions. Thanks so much.
Thanks very much. Hang tough and call me if you need me.